Hi there, I'm Mila Sipka, and this is the Apatros Review. Now, I've covered a few peplum in my time, and some of them have been downright odd, but the Giant of Metropolis is definitely one of the strangest ones I've seen so far. I thought I was done for good with these bloody peplum flicks. Now, for those who don't know what peplum flicks are, I'll give the following brief rundown, just so we're on the same page. Peplum, the Italian word for tunic, were Italian-made quasi-historical mythical strongman fantasy flicks that were very popular in both Italy and the USA from 1958 to 1964. At first, the peplum were pretty decent, but by the genre's end in 1964, it was reduced to mediocre and downright crappy flicks like Makista and the Queen Samar, otherwise known in English language bad movie masochist circles and MST free gang infamy as Hercules against the Moon Men, the bad quality of which eventually killed the genre for good. Now, in this episode, we take a look at a film called The Giant of Metropolis, which is actually the same title in both Italian and English. Obviously, it's an Italian film. It was theatrically released in Italy on the 26th of October 1961, and then in France and USA in the English dubbed version on the 20th of November 1963. It was directed by Umberto Scarpelli and written by at least 6 people. Sabatino Chiuffini, Ambrogio Molteni, Oreste Palella, and Mimo Salvi and Gino Stafford did the screenplay. The dialogue was written by Mimo Salvi and Umberto Scarpelli, and the story was done by Gino Stafford. And was produced by Mimo Salvi, and the cast includes Gordon Mitchell, Bella Cortez, Roldano Lupi, Omero Gargano, and Mario Meniconi. Now, this is available in the public domain, but my review print is on the Sci-Fi Invasion 50 film box set from Mill Creek in a rather soft-looking and fairly worn-out print that's showing its age. Probably an old film rental from the looks of it. That being said, you can still make out what the hell is going on in the film. By the way, I'd like to give a shout out to a friend. Hi, Sophie. A friend of mine. Anyway, decided to give a shout out. Anyway, now back to the review. Now, in the case of the Giant of Metropolis, once I'm glad that the Italian English titles are the same meaning, as most peplum have the typical Italian habit of alternate titles depending on the market, like the aforementioned example. This is a weird mishmash of genres akin to Makista and Queen Samar, but unlike that film, this is, despite not being that exceptional film, at least a much better, more enjoyable film that gets even more interesting when you factor in the spiritual subtext thrown in, courtesy of the film's 6 writers. Now, thousands of years ago, the city of Atlantis, Metropolis, the obvious stand-in for Atlantis, is facing environmental ruin as a nasty king wants to use his people's advanced degree in bullshitium pseudoscientific technology, high-instinct space radiation, to create a way to beat death. By implanting a piece of his late father's brain into that of his young pre-adolescent son, the king of Metropolis wants his son to live forever. That's it, nothing beyond that point in terms of grand plans. Of course, the planet doesn't want anything to do with the experiments, and Metropolis is beset by geological upheaval. When the sole survivor of the band messengers arrives in the city, his unique superhuman strength, proving his best defense against the various booby traps, gay pygmies that kill their victims by giving them hickeys, large thugs, light-based heat fields and freeze fields, and the usual peplum complement of an arming of bowling pin-grade mooks, armed with spears that have tips shaped like crab pincers. The king's reanimated father decides to ally himself with the stranger in a last-ditch effort to save the king's innocent children from the impending destruction of Metropolis. The regular Metropolis says, screw them, just get the kids out. While at first glance a combination of mythical strongman fantasy with science fiction might seem an odd choice, and given that no less than 6 people, including the director, contributed to this thing's mess of a script, it definitely has signs of feeling like people just made shit up and rolled with it. That alone makes it interesting as it's never boring, despite the rather leisurely pacing. The other thing that piqued my interest was the whole angle of the premise. As many reviewers on the internet claimed that the film references the Christian God in there somewhere. Sure enough, he gets a semi-obtuse reference as the hero stranger tells the pagan princess that his people worship the Supreme Being, and drops enough hints of morality to give people reason to believe that our hero is a Christian. As a fellow Christian, I approve of this. Something else that was mentioned in the interweb was a review from a leftist SJW film blogger who claims that the film's anti-science bent is comparable to the Trump supporters' view of science, which I actually agree, but for different reasons. The fact is that science over the past 2 years has been perverted to an extreme degree by the socialist left to push their evil agenda, with everything from dubious medical experimentation resulting in the release of the virus, to the false science promoting the cult of climate change, and many of us regular people, as well as those who are into science but with an ethical approach to the doctrine like I happen to be, one of my views includes the establishment of a universal code of ethics for the scientific community to outlaw the morally wrong bioweapons testing and fraudulent research that's been spreading amongst the science field. Now, we regular people are sick of the evil ones out there committing evil acts and using science to cover for them. This film actually gives a good moral lesson why you shouldn't mess with things you're not supposed to. So, this is a peplum film that's pretty much suitable for Christians. If you're a regular person not affiliated in any way with the woke cult of 2017, then this is a film you'll find enjoyable to watch, even though it's nothing anything more than passable. So bonus points for catering to us Christians. Now the giant Metropolis earns itself a C+, 5 out of 10 my grading ladder, a passable effort in the peplum genre. And I think this will be the last peplum I do. Now, for gore nudity, no actual attempt at gore effects, but there are some typically Italian gnarly deaths, such as a guard being executed for helping the stranger escape his prison cell. As for nudity, there's nothing of the sort here, although some female members of Metropolis royalty tend to wear surprisingly tight-fitting clothing that, while not actually exposing any flesh, nevertheless shows off the shape of their breasts more than most prudish people would have the stomach for. So they have some pretty tight clothing. Now this is included in the Mill Creek Sci-Fi Invasion film 50 film box set, positioned on the very last disc in the set, on the same disc as films like Abraxas Guardian of the Universe and bad movie classic Rotor. Now before I end this review, a funny little bit of trivia. Gordon Mitchell, the American bodybuilder who played a hero role here, couldn't be bothered to learn his lines in Italian on the set, which is not a problem with Italian flicks in general. So he simply swapped some of his dialogue out with some rather bawdy limericks, which are dubbed over in post. So if you're a lip reader and you watch the film, you might be able to pick up some very funny dialogue. Anyway. Okay, that's it for Giant Metropolis. Gets a C+, 5 out of 10. It's a passable bit of peplum. And, I mean, now I know that the conservatives, the Fred and I fan club aren't necessarily into this sort of thing, but this film pretty much goes over its way to cater to them. Right. So this is definitely a peplum film that you could watch for Sunday school. I mean, it's definitely relevant for today. Okay. Now, I don't do requests, but if you have any questions about films or DVDs in general, just hit me up in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer. I hope you guys are staying safe. Take it easy and see ya. Oh, that's my haircut. See you guys.